Hi, my name is Ryan and welcome to my channel. Oh, and look, I brought a special visitor. I brought Lieutenant Pickles with me. We're going to get rid of him because he is a loose cannon. Matter of fact, he might have something to do with all this craziness we're seeing here on Sudowrite with the AI. Okay, now, first things first, we are going to dig in a little bit deeper on the story engine. I left off the last video with a cliffhanger. I'm sure you've been waiting in anticipation to see what's going to happen here. All right, so let me check my notes. And first things, I want to mention this, is that in Sudowrite, I was actually happy to see this. Let's see, if you're seeing my screen here, let me try to find it. Okay, good. On the outline, here's a good example. If you notice the blue line, it's highlighting your grammar errors. Now you're probably thinking, oh, your grammar, oh my God. Okay, we all make grammar errors. But anyhow, I'm really happy to see that if you right click on your grammar errors, it's going to fix that for you. And then if you have, say, a new word, like I invented a word here called retils for the retils virus. It's actually just the word slither spelt backwards. And there's a long story behind that. It'll make more sense once you read the book. But if you right click on it, it's cool because you can have all your normal text editing type features where you can ignore it. And the best part is you can add it to the dictionary. So I wanted you to see that in case you're new to Sudowrite, so that way you can add stuff. For example, here's another word, Uruk. That's actually an ancient city in Samaria, and it's one of the cities here in my book. So I just want to add that to my dictionary, right click and add to dictionary. Okay, so that's a feature. You probably already knew about that. There's probably some other grammar errors out here. You can see them. I'm not going to sit here and let you watch me fix grammar errors. Honestly, I haven't really noticed a difference between grammar errors and no grammar errors whenever you're running this thing. I would anticipate that the AI could go through and just automatically correct those as you go through it. That's my suspicion. It's pretty, I don't want to say clairvoyant, but it definitely can forecast things on which direction you're going and kind of see the momentum of your thoughts, which I'd be interesting to see what kind of, psychologists that are involved in the actual programming of this. Because there's got to be more to it than just crunching numbers on a large scale to add vocabulary words to its dictionary. That's my suspicion, okay? I don't know. All right, so anyhow, where were we? What in the heck are we talking about? Oh, yeah. So first things, I had a flat response on my beats versus the outline. So what I did was I just copied and pasted my my outline, and I put it in the outline, and then I copied and pasted the same outline over here into the beats. And then what I did was that saved me a lot of time because my outlines were already very specific. You may not be in that same situation. I don't know. It just depends. This is me, so completely random in this regards. Maybe there's other people like me. I don't know. But that's what I did. And so what I did was you can see here, there's the first sentence of that beat. And then over here is the first sentence of the outline. Okay, so it does match up. Now what I did is that I gotta stick to my notes here. The story engine, one thing I did was I read from people on Slack. They only had one chapter per a story engine. So in this particular story engine, I only have one chapter. And I'll show you where I changed that in the next video. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and say for this particular instance, I only had one chapter in this video, and it worked out fine. It worked out good. This was I'd consider one of my first steps in consistent success with Story Engine, and I'll get into why. First, some errors that I noticed when I was doing this, even though I copied and pasted, is that, and I had to generate this chapter multiple times. This was kind of where I dug in and started trying some different things, is that it would randomly start pulling in characters from different, just for any reason, because you have your list of characters over here. And for example, I got all my characters, there's like 7 or 8 of them. Plus some of the characters are like a big group of people. And so it would randomly start pulling them in and start randomly giving them names. I didn't want them to have names. They weren't even so much like a character. If I had like a group called like the Treasure Hunters, I know it sounds cheesy. Don't worry, I'm going to change it. But it would start trying to identify and build backgrounds on there. That wasn't what I wanted. I just wanted like like this, heterogeneous group of people that were like this part of this organization that did things. Okay, just like a collusion of people or some sort of syndicate of people. They all have like a group think type mentality. And instead it was trying to like humanize them and give names and emotions. And this is even with the most accurate setting on the Prose generation. So that was an issue. And it was pulling in characters that shouldn't have been in there and other things. So I thought, well, you know what? This AI is kind of like an unruly child. Okay. It's like dealing with a 5-year-old. So I started giving it more specific instructions. And let me show you what happened. I'm looking at my notes here. It's in very small font, and my eyes can barely see it because it's on another monitor back over here. Oh, what I did was I tried to use my outline and my beats. For example, this outline over here, if you were to see it, I'll give you copies of all this stuff later if you want them. Oh, so I tried to control what would happen with the AI in the outline and how I wrote it, because I tried writing a general type of third person, kind of like almost like a technical type writing, because I figured the AI would respond to that. Since it's technical, it doesn't have so much emotion built into the verbiage. So that didn't work. Okay, that did not work. So instead I tried to use the drivers and the guardrails, and that did work, and it actually worked very well. And I started consistently trying to put them in there. Let's see. Yeah, so like the characters, I told you all about that. So what I did was use more control over the keywords of the drivers. And here's where I really noticed the first success. For example, on this beat right here, again, it's proprietary to my story. But one, the driver, I wanted to display the madness of the character, this guy right here. He's supposed to be crazy. It did a really good job of doing that. There's only one driver here, but I had three different guardrails. And this is where I started really kind of digging in on this, because I told it to do not use any other characters from the characters field. Only use this particular character. This is the only character present in the scene. I'm like, hey, stupid. This is the only one you're going to use. Don't use anybody else. And it worked. It didn't use any other characters. And I think it picked up on the field name right here called characters. I put it in double quotations. In programming, that's called a string literal. Field would be any sort of entry box. If you're like looking at this as a form, that would be a field, like in a spreadsheet. Here's a spreadsheet. You're like, man, you're such a nerd. You always have spreadsheets up. That's true. I always have spreadsheets. So your records would be all the rows, and then your fields would be all the columns. Okay. So I'm suspicious that maybe the programmers have some sort of database where this is some sort of, it's indicated as a field inside the database. I'm just guessing. No one's giving me any information. Nobody's called me up and say, hey, this is Mr. Sudowrite, and this is what's going on. We're going to give you all the wonderful details. So I tried that, and it worked. And I was pretty happy about that. Let's see other. So the hovercraft in the scene is supposed to be hidden, like you don't know where it's at. It's kind of like nobody should know where it's at this point in time. It's like you're in the hovercraft in the scene, but you don't know where it's at that point in time in the story. So I put that in there. I said, do not disclose the location of the hovercraft. It's like, don't do it. And it worked. It didn't put it in there. And I'll show you in a second. Oh, also right here on the scene, I double dipped on this one. I was like, this scene only takes place in the hovercraft. Okay, so one, only use this character, no other characters. Two, there are no indications of where this thing's at. Don't even try to tiptoe around it and try to make associations with things that I don't want you to. Don't even bring it up. And three, I told it that everything that's going to be talked about, anything you generate, is all happening right here in this particular instance of the story. And it worked. It worked out really well. And what really made it interesting was when I came down here to the next beat, and this is where my idea really kind of started popping here. Is one, I put a driver, express the massiveness of the rail cannons, and then the driver, I wanted the kind of like a dramatic entry, and it did a really good job where it says reveal that the hovercraft is in a city called New Uruk. Okay, like it's like, oh my gosh, there it is. It's like Nobody knew it was here, and there it is, you know. And then from here, I didn't even put it in the guardrails that it cannot disclose it. I just omitted it. And then for the driver, I said to to reveal that it's there. So I was flipping it around, and the AI did a great job of handling that. That was a big win right there for those 2 beats. I'm not going to show it to you because I'll give you the book for free if you're sitting there watching this stuff. But I'm not done with the book yet. It'll come out there, I promise you. Let's see. So those were some big wins I had right there. So I came up with an idea. I was like, you know what? I need an algorithm. I mean, that's what I do, right? Come up with an algorithm. I mean, we all have algorithms in life on how we do things. We have a method to our madness on how we do things. Okay, if we just did things randomly all day long, gosh, I mean, we wouldn't be able to get anything done. Okay, so I wanted some sort of system to what I was doing here so I could make some progress. And again, as you saw on the previous video with my big win here, chapter 5 is when I started noticing it. Chapter 6 is when I started really trying to think like, hey, let's make this a process to keep these numbers in this high percentile. And it worked for now. I'm sure it's going to change once they do something different at the on the high level of the Sudowrite with the developers. It's kind of like a network security thing. Like when you're dealing with, say you're working at a company and you're able to use all these particular systems, but then your security specialist decide like, hey, we need to change these settings because some of your coworkers are spending too much time playing fantasy football or something. And next thing you know, you can't access a website or a database that you're using for productivity purposes. It's kind of the same scenario. That's my guess. I'm guessing here. All right, so let's show you what my notes were for this one. All right, so the double D, double G. I think it's fun to say. So I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to have 2 drivers every time and then have 2 guardrails every time. The first thing I did was I was like, hey, you know what? Let's start setting the tone for every single scene, or excuse me, every beat. I'm going to treat every beat as a scene into itself. And so I'm going to tell it the tone. So every time I have a beat, I'm always telling the tone to the AI. It's like, hey, this is going to be action, this is horror, this is suspense, mystery, drama, romantic, whatever it happens to be. It's like it's always setting the tone. And I found out just one tone works best. If you try to mix or match, it didn't work so well. Also, shifting the tone in the middle of a beat, the AI did not handle that very well. It's if that was a first date for the AI, it wouldn't get a second date. Okay, so it would have gone home a sad, hopeless romantic. So the AI did not handle a shift in the tone in the middle of a beat. However, I did notice that if my beats, I kept keeping the same tone through all the different beats, there was a lot more consistency and a lot more momentum in how it would keep building upon itself. If I kept shifting the tones per beat, there would be some success, but it seemed to lose that momentum. And that's probably a me thing. Maybe I'm shifting it around too much. Maybe it's my ADD kicking in. I don't know. Let's see, the second driver, I thought was, okay, let's make sure we elaborate on something. Like, for example, you saw in mine right here, for this one, I wanted to elaborate to express the massiveness of the rail cannons and then reveal that the hovercraft was in this particular town. I didn't have to like overemphasize. I just put the word dramatically, gives the command. And AI did a great job. It just kind of ran with it and came up with what I thought was pretty good. I was happy with it. I was like, hey, all right, this could work. This is, this is good. It's better than a robot vacuum cleaner. Let's see what else. Then my other 2 guardrails, this doesn't always take place, okay? It changes. Sometimes I have 3 drivers and sometimes I have 3 guardrails, okay? But at a minimum, I'm always going to put 2 and 2 for now until something changes and my the effectiveness of this wears off and something happens and I'm not getting a high % return on my investment of words here. So for the guardrail, I say, hey, what other information from the fields to mark off? Like what am I excluding here? What am I keeping out? What am I stopping? That's been successful like that. And then also I tell what other fields to not touch upon. For example, like don't mention these other scenarios, these other objects, these other events that are taking place. Because in the brain dump, I just threw so much in there. I threw everything I could think of about the story. And it wasn't particularly like in a sequence, but it was a lot of different information in there. So by doing that, it stopped trying to randomly pull stuff out of the different fields when I told it to not touch anything else. And it worked. So I've been pretty happy with that. And let's see. That's pretty much it. Let's stop this video. Oh, no, you know what? Let's go over one thing. Here, one more thing. So the word generation. I know we're all worried about the words. You're probably like, I'm not worried about the words. But I am. Because you know what? Because it's fun. And it's fun to analyze this stuff. So for the story engine outline right here, it had 560 characters. Again, remember, it's counting all these as characters. And here's, well, it should be, right? Yeah, there you go. So, sorry. I got wires. You know about my wires. Okay. So, anyhow, those counts as words right here with your chapters and stuff. So, if you're really worried about your words, you might want to just say it's chapter 1 every time. Because right now, this story engine has no clue, because this is chapter 6. It has no clue what took place on these other ones. And you can see right here that I'm on chapter 1, then I jumped to chapter 6. So it has no idea what has happened in the past. And I'm fine with that because it doesn't need to. Because the way I write my stories, I don't have this very complex novel structure. I kind of like that adventure mentality, like you're going down this pathway and you just keep discovering new stuff. It's almost like watching a movie. Now you're probably thinking, well, some things are important from the beginning of the movie to the end. That's true. That is true. But in this particular situation, we don't need to constantly keep reminding the reader about what's taken place previously. So that's my mentality and rationale for not putting the other chapters in here. But you'll see that changes here in a second. So 530 words. And then right here, for my chapter 6, it went up to 1786. Okay, I don't think you can see those, but you'll just have to trust me on that. Maybe I'll highlight it for you. So the numbers did increase. But you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. You said you just copied and pasted that. That is correct. But what drove the numbers up were all the drivers and the guardrails that I put in there. And you see right here on this first one, I did not use my 2 drivers and I only had 2 guards. Okay. Now, this was still when I was experimenting with it before I decided to consistently keep with it, because it was these 2 beats is what really gave me the idea to stick with that when I was coming up with the idea of how to make the algorithm. So I just want you to see the method behind the madness here. Let's see what else. Oh, so anyhow, that's where the numbers increase from just adding the drivers and the guardrails. Then down here at the bottom with the prose, you can see it generated 4,136 words, and there are, how many beats total? 19 beats. So 19 beats times, let's divide it here. So we got 41, 36. Y'all are probably like, here he goes again with his calculator. So it came out to 217 words per beat, which fits the range that they estimated when we signed up for this bad boy, which is going to be about 200 to 300 words per a beat. So that's what drove up the number here. But also, if you notice, each sentence, each beat is about one, we'll say on average about 1.5 sentences. I didn't really analyze these numbers. I guess we could if we wanted to. I mean, that's what y'all signed up for, right? Let's look at the numbers here. All right, so let's say we got this one. It's kind of a bigger one. And we come over here to word, blank word. Let's just paste it in there and just see how many words are on that one. So 33 words per that beat. Then let's just grab 3 in a row. Okay, let's just keep it real easy here. This one's a bigger one. Oh, I know what I should do. You know what? I'm going to pick the ones I was happiest with. So 3. Yeah, I was happy with these. So happy that Lieutenant Pickles got a little bit of cat treats. We rewarded him. So 25 words, the AI accomplished something, so the cat was rewarded. Does anybody have a cat out there? If it's just me, cats are kind of crazy. Okay, so that was 25 words, and this one was 1. And I would say these were both on my scale, they both scored a 5. So 43 words, 25 and 43. Let's just split it down the middle, and let's say it's about, about 34, 35 words per beat. That would be a good estimate of the average. Because I can guarantee you this, I'm not going to go through here and crunch these numbers. I think it's a waste of time. There's a saying by a professional corporate performance manager guru, Thomas Moore. I have his book back here. I can't remember his name. But I'm willing to bet it's back here. I bet if I start digging around, I can find it. But then you're going to be like watching me dig through a bookshelf, and that's probably not very cool. So anyhow, there's a saying, it's like he who measures, or he or she, or whoever you are, those who measure everything measure nothing. And that does hold true, okay? Because I work in a profession where we're always constantly analyzing data and statistics. And there gets to a point, this was even when I was not a computer science teacher, but there gets to a point where the data is not even really giving you any information. It's just kind of producing a lot of results. I'm sure some data scientists could tell us exactly what that is. There is a term for that. Doggone, I can't remember what it is. You get the point. So there you have it. We're not going to measure it, but you can guess I'm about 25 to 40 words per beat. This is probably one of the longer ones. I guarantee it. There's a shorter one. This one's a little about the same size as number 4, which was 43 words. So we're kind of in that same range right there. And I would say the results are really good. This was really when I started taking off here. So I'm going to leave it at that because this is getting long. And not only long for you to watch, but it's also very long for me to edit this thing. So we will cover that, or excuse me, I want to go over the actual process I used to make this. So you can just see me working. It might be helpful, it might not. I don't know. You never can tell. I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. So thanks again. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed the cat. Hope you're enjoying Sudowrite. And keep working hard. Keep trying your best. And whatever you do, don't quit.